following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Every day, citizens around the country are faced with new dilemmas. Dilemmas that affect them profoundly. Whether it's injustice, discrimination, falling through the cracks, scandals and cronyism, balances of power, ethics, religious freedoms, state versus citizens, and unfunded mandates, and the list goes on and on and on. Welcome to Speak Up. It's directed at those who have fallen through the cracks, and it gives them a voice. It's your turn to speak up, to stand up and fight back.
Welcome to Speak Up. I'm Kevin Avard, your host, and today's topic is, again, parental alienation in New Hampshire. It seems week by week we're constantly hearing stories about parents being alienated from their children for no apparent reason that they can't explain. They've committed no crime, they've done no child abuse, and yet they find themselves wondering what happened to them after they've lost their money to either their lawyer or the other person's lawyer. Something is going wrong. And it's not just men here in New Hampshire. And today's guest is Melissa Hohman, and you are from the Bow area.
Yes.
in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
And welcome to Speak Up.
Thank you.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about your case. You have two children.
I do.
Your son is 5 years old, and he is from a previous marriage.
Yes.
And he has a few ailments right now that he's kind of suffering through, right? That he struggles with, right?
Yes, he does. On an everyday basis, he does. He's got a malformation of his brain. He's already had one corrective surgery, which didn't take, so he'll be having another. He's got multiple neurological disorders, seizure disorder, and IGF-1 deficiency dwarfism.
Has anybody told you that you were not a fit mother?
No.
Nobody's come to try to take your son away from you?
No.
Has anybody complained to you that you were a bad mother to your son?
No.
Nobody from DCYF, the state agencies, Health and Human Services, they've not come and knock on the door and took your son away for any reason?
Absolutely not.
Right. And you said he's 5 years old? And this is something that you have to work with on a daily basis, worried about your son.
Yes.
Now you have a daughter.
I do.
And you haven't seen your daughter for how long?
9 months.
And she's 3 years old. And why haven't you seen her?
She was taken by ex-party on May 1st.
Ex parte? Yeah. And tell me what happened there. You went to court. There was a divorce. There's some messy stuff going on. But the details are that you went to the court for a hearing.
Yes.
Was it an emergency hearing?
Yeah. What happened was I took out a restraining order against her father. He was abusive towards me, my husband at the time. And he went and took out an ex-party about 5 days later. And the marshal came to the house with the police and took her right out of my arms. And they handed me a piece of paper with a bunch of false allegations from his family members, making claims that I abused her and that I abused alcohol and drugs. And I have been fighting for her ever since.
Do you do alcohol and drugs?
I do not.
Okay. Are you allergic to alcohol?
I am.
Okay. And you said that DCYF actually came and did an investigation.
Yes.
And how long did that take?
A couple months.
What did they do in their investigation?
They came because there were some allegations against my husband at the time. My son had mentioned some pretty disturbing things to his therapist, and the therapist was a mandatory reporter, so he reported it to DCYF. My neighbors did as well, of some horrible things that they had witnessed him doing to my son. And DCYF came and they interviewed Christian, and they interviewed me, and they interviewed the neighbors. They got statements from the neighbors. They got statements from the therapist. And then they told me that they were going to inform my husband at the time, that they were going to interview him and tell him what the allegations were. And they actually allowed him to pick the date and to sit down with his lawyer. And a couple weeks later, they found everything unfounded.
On him?
Yes.
How about on you?
There was no DCYF investigation on me.
Okay, so everybody's clean so far.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you're at this hearing. Was this a hearing for finding, for a finding is whether abuse is going on? What was the hearing for?
There was supposed to be a hearing on May 15th for his strangling me, for the protective order.
Now, that's what the notification came into the mail. This is when your hearing is?
Yes.
Show up and bring any kind of evidence that you need for this particular hearing. So you show up, you have your attorney with you,
Yes,
and you think it's about this particular subject.
I do.
But it turned into something else.
What happened was is his attorney claimed that she was not ready for this hearing, that Keith was not ready. And so they asked at the last minute if we could postpone it. And so I thought that it was for this specific hearing, and I allowed it as long as they were to continue the restraining order past, because it was the 30 days, and they said that they would. And I found out later on that they had combined everything for the pretrial, for everything, the divorce, the ex parte, the restraining orders, everything was combined all in one hearing.
All right, and wait a second, and you still haven't seen your daughter?
No.
So you go to court, you expect, and you agree to it because you thought it was going to be on this particular topic,
Yes.
not the divorce, not all the other issues. So did your lawyer tell you that? Did he know at the time?
No. He told me that it was to set the court date for a later time for the protective order.
Did you ask him when you're going to be able to see your daughter?
Yes.
And what did he say?
He said when they come up with the court date for the ex parte.
In the meantime, there was no visitation?
Oh, there was visitation. I was allowed to see her at the hands of the accusers. So the people who accused me of doing all of these, horrible things to my children, pretty much had reign over when I could see her, and they were the ones who were allowed to supervise. And that was very uncomfortable for me.
And you weren't allowed to say anything in private or anything?
I went once to see her with my brother. I didn't feel comfortable going alone because I didn't want them accusing me of anything. And I went to go see her, and I hadn't seen her for 21 days.
Is there any public record of you being abusive at all?
No. Mm-mm.
And the judge allowed it? Who's the judge?
Judge Albee, Pamela Albee.
And what court system?
This was in Plymouth.
In Plymouth, New Hampshire. So you've committed no crime.
No,
You've never had a record.
never.
You don't do drugs and alcohol. And because you were accused of something, you lost complete custody of your daughter for 9 months.
Yep.
What has your lawyer done to remedy this?
Nothing. I couldn't pay him anymore, and so he just didn't want to deal with me anymore. So he told me he was no longer going to represent me.
What's his name?
Bill Parnell and Rory Parnell.
And that's the name of their law firm?
Yes, Parnell.
So it cost you about $4,000, $5,000?
$5,000.
And all they did was file a motion of continuance?
They kept filing. We filed many motions, to get things done, get things working, but they didn't do anything for me. When I went to interview with them or to do my consult with them, they told me that this was a slam dunk case and they were going to get me my daughter back. And that was not the case at all.
Was that a guarantee?
Yeah, according to them.
So I guess what I don't understand at this point is how the judge is not, if there's not a finding against you, if DC YF has not had a finding. Is the divorce final?
Not yet.
And you're still only visitations supervised?
Yep, yep. And they still they did not prove that I used drugs or that I drank, yet I brought all this evidence to the table. I worked for a doctor, I'm a medical assistant, and I worked for a doctor and then for a company called Pain Care. And they do drug testing down to the metabolite level at Pain Care. They can actually tell if you had been drinking in the past 72 hours. And I submitted my drug test that I took for working there, which they tested for drugs, for alcohol, came back negative. And I also took 2 drug tests, not 1, but 2, at the previous employer that I worked for. And both of them were clear.
You submitted it through your attorney?
Oh, yeah, I submitted it at court.
Right. And what did they do with the evidence?
Nothing.
Did they look at it?
I don't think so, no. She said that she was going to, Judge Albee said that she was going to take all this evidence and look at it at the end of the court date, or at the end of the whole hearing. And I would just like to make this clear that his side got about an hour and a half of time, and I only got about a half an hour from me to be heard, when that was supposed to be my day in court, for me to prove my innocence, when it was really...
Why do you have to prove your innocence?
Because pretty much I felt like they had battered my name through the grass, and I know who I am.
Aren't you innocent until proven guilty?
Not in this court.
Now, you said there's a criminal record on your ex?
Yes.
As far as DWIs and stuff, DWIs or driving under the influence?
Yes, 2.
2. And there's other instances where he's basically violated that as well?
Yes, he violated his probation, so it's longer now. It's for another year.
Okay. And has the court, did you bring that up in court?
We actually did bring that up in court, that he was a 2-time convicted DUI offender. He admitted he had a drinking problem in court, admitted it, and said that he was getting help. And he stopped drinking when he got Emily. And I thought for sure there that was, that was a red flag right there. You don't just stop drinking if you're an alcoholic. And I just couldn't believe that he came out and admitted that he was an alcoholic.
Who is his lawyer?
Or Schwartzberg.
Okay. And what law firm? That's the name of the law firm.
Mm-hmm.
And they're out of?
Concord and Piedmont, New Hampshire.
Okay.
Now, when he was testifying on the stand to all these horrible things that I supposedly did, we did catch him in a couple lies. And at the end, my lawyer did say, none of this was in your affidavit. And Ora actually admitted to writing his entire affidavit in court. And he admitted to just signing it that morning and not reading it. And it's all in the transcripts at court.
And you have a copy of those transcripts?
Oh, I sure do.
And so we'd like to see that at some point
oh, yes.
for the Center for Redress. So where does it stand now? You're just waiting. You haven't seen your daughter. There's no parental plan.
What happened is he was going for step-parent rights. After he had abused my son, he wanted step-parent rights over him. And I had to make a horrible decision between my 2 children. My ex-husband, who is Christian's father, my 5-year-old, said that he did not want his son in danger. The judge was really considering giving Keith...
Based on what?
Step-parent rights. She was
Based on what?
I have absolutely no idea, because he wanted step-parent rights. My ex-husband flew all the way from Arkansas to fight this. These are both biological parents saying, no, we do not want this man near our son. He abused him. He's terrified of him. And she was still going to consider giving step-parent rights. And so my ex-husband said, we need to get him to Arkansas to pretty much save him. Because, like I said, one bump to the head, one wrong fall is all it would take. And with the abuse that was mentioned that he had done to my son, it was only a matter of time.
And to be fair, though, there wasn't a finding by DCYF, but that doesn't necessarily mean...
No, but I believe my son.
Right. So when is the next hearing?
There isn't one.
So how does this work? Did the court say you had to pay a child support?
What happened was I took Christian down to Arkansas. His health was deteriorating very rapidly. I was supposed to have a hearing for the pretrial conference to go over custody and things of that nature. And I pleaded with the courts. I put in motions for a continuance because my son was not doing well at all. And he was going to multiple specialists in Arkansas, and his doctor wrote a very long letter to the judge stating what Christian was going through and how dangerous the situation was and how he could die.
You have a copy of that?
Yes,
right.
And she put that in there. He could die. And that it was not healthy for me to have to focus on this when I should be focusing on him. And I asked for a continuance, and they denied it and did not give me a reason. They denied it at 4:30 in the afternoon the day before the hearing. And they told me that I could do it telephonically. And I was in duress. I don't know how else to say it. I was beside myself. My son, has to have brain surgery again. And Keith's lawyer called me, Ora Schwartzberg, and she said, we can make all this go away. Just sign these papers. Just sign these papers. We can make all this go away. You can focus on your son. Her words. And I said, fine. Fine. So I agreed to it. So they emailed it to me, and that morning, I said to Judge Rappa telephonically, I said, I can't deal with this right now. We came to an agreement. And, he said, I'm very sorry for what you're going through. I just wanted you to be able to give your side. And I said, I wouldn't have asked for a continuance if I wanted to be heard. I needed to have my wits at hand.
Did your attorney see that document that was sent to you?
I didn't have an attorney by that point. I was all by myself.
So you were pro se at that point?
Yes.
Did you read the document?
I did, but...
What did it say to you?
Honestly, it was... I wasn't in my right mind.
Okay.
I wasn't in a legal mind, I was so focused on my son.
Was it saying that you'd have to surrender your rights to your daughter?
It says that he would get sole custody. But I thought that I could be able to, hopefully, in the future, talk about reopening it. And from what I understood from Ora, that was something that Keith wanted too. But that doesn't seem to be what the case is now. So I signed the documents, and this is where we are now. And they're wanting child support from me. They're coming up with amounts that I never made. I gave proofs of that during the summer.
How much are they asking?
They were asking for $388 a month, and they're saying that I'm $2,000 in arrears. And I've made less than $9,000 for the year. And I have a disabled child to take care of. And they took my license.
And to hold as ransom?
Yeah. When I have a very sick child at home, very sick, who just had to go to the hospital last night.
So in between the hearings, this document came out saying, look, we can make this all go away. Just sign this release, and you'll have to choose one child over the other. Basically, is that what they offered you?
They told me that they would not go after step-parent rights with Christian.
If you surrendered rights over. Do you have that document?
Yes, I have. I have. It's my court papers. They're my settlement papers.
Right.
Yes.
We'd like to look at that at some point. So basically, at this point, then it's closed. You're not allowed to see your daughter.
I'm only allowed to see her at supervised visitation centers.
In that document that you signed, was there a parental plan at all?
Yeah. Yes, there was.
And that's basically what you have right now, that you have to have supervised visits.
Yes. Somebody has to watch me and calculate my every move around my daughter. It's preposterous. I'm the one that took care of her.
She's your daughter.
Yes.
I personally don't see how the courts have a justification by that. There's plenty of Supreme Court rules that say that that's illegal. Do you plan on fighting this?
Yes.
All right. Do you have a support group that'll help you with that?
Yes.
All right. I'd like to follow up with this on another interview at another point, because there's a lot of details that we didn't go over.
Yeah.
There's no more hearings. This is it. And now you're pleading for help.
Yes.
And you're asking somebody out there to listen to your story.
Yes.
And understand that you're a fit mother. Were you ever proven to be an unfit mother?
Never.
So that's not in the best interest of the child, then, is it?
No.
If you're a fit parent, the best interest of the child is to have both parents involved equally,
Yes.
and that the courts didn't look after the best interest of the child.
No. And I never not wanted him to ever not be a part of her life, ever. I just want to be a part of my daughter's life.
Right.
She's my daughter.
Well, we're going to follow up on this, and I appreciate you coming on Speak Up
Okay.
to talk about this story.
Thank you for
And
having me.
if somebody wants to get in touch with you with regards to the story, is there a way that they can do it without, barraging you with a whole? Is there an email that you have for this particular that they can get in touch with you, or would you like them to get in touch with me to you?
I don't have an email set up as of yet,
Okay.
but I think that it would be appropriate to get in touch with you.
Okay, fine, and we'll do that. And we want to thank you for watching Speak Up. And this is just another case where we've had many psychologists, many people on this show to talk about parental alienation. This is a classic case, just at face value, of another parent being separated from their child, having not committed a crime. The best interest of the child, according to the Supreme Court, is that both parents be involved with that child's life. And more and more studies are proving that the long-term effects of parental alienation are devastating to our country, and it's happening nationwide. If you know how to help, please contact me at speakupnh@gmail.com, and we'll pass on the information. Until next week, thank you for watching Speak Up. Thank you for watching this episode of Speak Up. We also want to thank our sponsor, Center for Redress of Grievances, LLC. You can reach them at www.centerforredress.com. If you want more information about Speak Up or want to be a guest, you have something to say, contact us at speakupnh@gmail.com. And thanks for watching. Until next week.
Every day, citizens around the country are faced with new dilemmas that affect them profoundly. Whether it's injustice, discrimination, falling through the cracks, scandals and cronyism, balances of power, ethics, religious freedoms, state versus citizens, and unfunded mandates, and the list goes on and on and on. Welcome to Speak Up. It's directed at those who have fallen through the cracks, and it gives them a voice. It's your turn to speak up, to stand up and fight back.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.